Can you imagine the absolute heartbreak of giving everything to an organization for over a decade, only to have them publicly humiliate you when you need their support the most? Because what happened to John Tavares right now in Toronto isn't just disappointing. It's a devastating betrayal that exposes the coldest, most ruthless side of professional hockey, and I'm genuinely disgusted by how this situation is unfolding. The Toronto Maple Leafs have systematically stripped John Tavares of his dignity, his leadership role, and his identity within the organization, all while pretending this is somehow in the team's best interest. This isn't roster management. This is character assassination disguised as business strategy, and the way they've handled the situation should make every player in the league question whether loyalty means anything in today's NHL. Let's start with the captaincy controversy that revealed everything ugly about modern hockey politics. Tavares wore the C with pride, handled every media obligation with class, and represented the franchise exactly how you want your captain to behave. He never complained about ice time, never threw teammates under the bus, and consistently put the team's needs ahead of his personal statistics and glory. Yet somehow, the organization decided that wasn't enough. The whispers started early in the season about potential leadership changes. Leaked stories suggesting that Tavares wasn't the right fit for the captaincy, and carefully orchestrated media campaigns designed to make his removal seem inevitable rather than the organizational betrayal it actually represents. When they finally stripped him of the captaincy, the announcement was handled with all the warmth and respect of a corporate layoff notice. No proper ceremony, no acknowledgement of his years of service, no recognition of the sacrifices he made after leaving Long Island specifically to lead this franchise. Just cold, calculated business language that treated him like damaged equipment being discarded. The most infuriating aspect is how they're now trying to justify this decision by questioning his on-ice production, as the declining offensive numbers somehow erase years of leadership and commitment. Tavares is 34 years old, and playing to the kind of physical where that comes from a decade plus of NHL hockey. His goals and assists might be decreasing, but his value to the locker room and his understanding of what it takes to win remain invaluable. This isn't just about statistics or salary cap management. This is about organizational character, and Toronto's handling of Tavares reveals a franchise that views players as interchangeable assets rather than human beings who've invested their careers and reputations in the team's success. The trade rumors represent another layer of this betrayal that's equally stomach-turning. After stripping him of the captaincy, they're now actively shopping him around the league like he's surplus inventory that needs to be moved before it expires. Teams are reportedly interested, but only if Toronto retains significant salary, which means they're willing to pay Tavares not to play for them. Think about the psychological impact of that reality. You're John Tavares. You left your childhood team to chase a championship in Toronto. You gave everything you had to this organization, and now they're literally paying other teams to take you away. The humiliation is complete and utterly unnecessary given his contributions and professionalism throughout this ordeal. The salary retention aspect makes the situation even more insulting. Toronto is reportedly willing to retain up to 50% of Tavares' remaining contract, which means they value getting him out of the organization more than the financial cost of his departure. That's not roster optimization. That's personal, and suggests there are dynamics at play that go far beyond hockey performance. What makes this treatment particularly galling is how Tavares has handled every aspect of his demotion with grace and professionalism that his organization clearly doesn't deserve. He hasn't demanded trades, hasn't criticized management publicly, and hasn't created locker room drama despite having every right to be furious about his treatment. Instead, he's continued showing up, doing his job, and maintaining the same professional standards that made him captain material in the first place. His response to this adversity has been more leadership-worthy than anything his replacement has demonstrated. Yet the organization continues treating him like a problem that needs solving rather than an asset worth protecting. The media coverage has been equally frustrating, with too many reporters simply parroting the organization's talking points about difficult decisions and salary cap realities without acknowledging the human cost of these moves. Tavares isn't just a contract or a statistics sheet. He's a person whose career and reputation are being systematically destroyed by people who should be protecting both. The impact on other players shouldn't be underestimated either. If Toronto can treat their captain this way after years of exemplary service, what message does that send to the rest of the roster? Why should anyone trust management's promises about loyalty or long-term commitment when they're willing to humiliate their own leader for marginal roster improvements? This situation creates a toxic environment where players are constantly looking over their shoulders, wondering if they'll be the next victim of management's ruthless cost-cutting measures. Championship teams are built on trust and mutual respect, not fear and uncertainty about whether your contributions will be valued or dismissed based on the latest analytics report. The timing of this betrayal makes it even more cruel. Tavares is in the twilight of his career, likely his last chance to win a Stanley Cup, and instead of being surrounded by an organization that appreciates his sacrifice and commitment, he's being treated like an expensive mistake that needs correcting. He could have stayed in New York, probably would have been treated better, and might have already won a championship by now. Instead, he took a leap of faith on Toronto's promises about building something special, and they repaid that faith by systematically dismantling his role and reputation within the organization. The financial aspect of his potential trade reveal how little Toronto values his intangible contributions. They're willing to pay millions of dollars just to remove him from their roster, money that could be spent on player development, scouting, or facility improvements. Instead, they're choosing to waste resources on getting rid of a player whose only crime is aging like every other human being in professional sports. What's most heartbreaking is imagining Tavares' perspective throughout this nightmare. He gave up his captaincy with the Islanders, left millions of dollars on the table, and endured years of criticism from New York fans specifically to chase a championship with Toronto. Now, in what might be his final years as an effective NHL player, he's being treated like an unwanted burden rather than a valuable veteran whose experience could help younger players develop. The ripple effects of this betrayal extend far beyond Tavares himself. Free agents considering Toronto will remember how they treated their captain. Current players will question whether their own contributions will be valued long-term. The fan base is watching their organization choose cold analytics over human decency, and it's not a good look for a franchise that claims to value character and leadership. This isn't how championship organizations operate. Successful teams find ways to honor their veterans while making necessary roster adjustments. They communicate with respect, handle transitions with dignity, and maintain relationships even when business decisions create difficult situations. Toronto's handling of Tavares fails every one of these standards. The most tragic aspect might be that this betrayal is completely unnecessary. Tavares wasn't demanding to remain captain, wasn't refusing to accept reduced roles, and wasn't creating problems that require this level of organizational cruelty. They could have handled this transition with respect and gratitude, but instead chose humiliation and disrespect. John Tavares deserved better than this treatment, and Toronto's handling of a situation reveals an organization that's lost sight of what actually builds championship cultures. You don't create winning environments by betraying the people who've sacrificed the most for your success. What's your take on how Toronto has treated Tavares throughout this entire mess? Do you think there's any justification for this level of disrespect toward their former captain, or is this as disgraceful as it appears? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this situation represents everything wrong with modern hockey business practices. And hit that like button if you believe veteran players deserve better treatment than what we're witnessing in Toronto.